Hello and welcome to another episode of Feeding Fatty. I'm Roy.
I'm Terry.
We're so glad y'all are with us. We are taping this just after the holiday, Thanksgiving holiday 2020. So we probably will be referencing a little bit of that. Of course, this is our journey, my journey. Terry is my support system and helping me to, try to get my weight, my health under control. So we always want to have other, it's one thing for us to talk about our journeys, but we want to have other people on, to more professionals, to help us with that and help you with that. So today we have a great guest, and Terry, I'll let you introduce.
Yes, we're so excited to have Robin Clare, and she is a spiritual author and recovery and writing coach with a business career background. She wanted to learn to live according to her authentic mission during a successful 25-year MBA career in public and private sectors. And she has a deep passion for spirituality and wellness, traveling the globe to study with spiritual masters while developing her divine gifts. Robin, welcome. You are so welcome to this show. I'm very excited to talk to you.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you, Roy, for having me
Yes,
on today.
you bet. Yeah, we're looking forward, and I think maybe just kind of start out. I mean, I know you have a lot to talk about the spiritualness and the addiction and how that affects us, our weight and everything. But let's talk about your journey for just a minute. I mean, you've made a big break, kind of stepping away from your corporate career, pursuing the spiritualness, and it's big. So let's talk about how kind of what led up to that, and then kind of your journey through that process.
Yes, thank you. So as Terry pointed out, I spent like 25 years in corporate, but throughout that time, I had two personalities. One was my corporate personality, get ahead at any cost, and then on the weekends, so I called myself a corporate warrior. And then on the weekends, I was a spiritual warrior, and they could never meet. During the time that I was in corporate America, you did not talk about spirituality. I don't know if you do now, but I know you didn't do it then.
Right, right.
And I just started to have this need to have become my authentic self. Like I couldn't be in business anymore without being my spiritual self. And so I was really driven outside for like a year. I stood on my deck almost every night asking, how could I be of greater service to mankind? What I didn't know at the time is that I was actually dedicating my life to be of divine service, meaning that I would become a promoter of spiritual events. That's what I did first. And then I would also then become a spiritual teacher, a spiritual author. I would be delivering messages from what many might call the non-physical realm. And so that's what I do. I help people to connect to their own inner divinity, and then to what others might call spirit guides, angels, deceased loved ones, and ascended beings. And I feel very blessed to have this role. And sometimes I can't even believe it. I can't believe that I went from this corporate life to this life. Although if you ask any of my good friends or my family, they would tell you that I was always like this. There were always unique things that happened to me that didn't happen to other people. So I have this idea, and then folks would always ask me, how do you do what you do? And I always say I didn't know that I couldn't.
Right.
I didn't realize, if we're all energy, if the universe is all energy, then why can't I speak to anyone? Right. Or connect in any way? And so this knowing that everything is possible for me allowed me to have access, I guess is the best way of saying it, to ascended beings that have messages for humanity.
And is that what energy is like for somebody, just a layperson who doesn't really quite know what energy is?
Yeah.
It kind of scares people some. They're like, oh my gosh, it's kind of weird. It's like going back to
It
the
is.
60s and,
Yeah. Well, the universe is made up of energy. We are made up of energy. that's why the study of energy medicine is so important for our wellness, because we the way I always say with energy medicine is that we get so if we're energy, my work is based on the premise that we are a soul being having a human being experience, not the other way around. And so the body is the vessel for your soul to come here and learn. And then other members of your soul family show up in different roles in your life. You know, people from you in my teachings, we choose our parents, right? Because we say to them, hey, you know, before we come here, I need to learn this and I need to learn that. Can you come in here and set the stage so that I could reach my potential in this lifetime of learning what I need to in order for my soul to grow? Because this lifetime is just a tiny little step on the journey of our soul. It seems like a long time, and it seems like for some people it feels like forever. And
Yes.
that's why I always say, look at it from your soul's perspective. Why is your soul here? What does it want to accomplish? And so when you're looking at what your soul wants to accomplish, you're living from the energy of you, the energy aspect of you, right?
Okay.
And then from a health perspective, which the three of us are very interested in, if there our soul's energy, the energy, and we're connected to all the energy in all of the universe, most diseases typically start out as dis-ease in the energy field. And then if we don't heal it in our energy field, if we don't get to understand what's bothering us, our emotions, our thoughts are energy, our emotions are energy, that's part of our energy field. If we don't heal those thoughts, those emotions, then typically they land in our body and become disease. So this is why energy medicine is so important, because you want to be able to understand the impact of emotions and thoughts
Yes.
and behaviors on your health.
Yeah, and we discussed that a lot about being able to, get stuff out. And I think what you're talking about, in some respects, is holding things in. We have to learn ourselves. I think it's interesting what you said, that you felt like your corporate self and your real spiritual self couldn't align. And it's important that we think about that, because a lot of times you're right. We have these dueling personalities. It's with friends, at home, at church, at wherever. And sometimes we need to do a lot of introspection to see who we are and be able to be that person in life.
Across the
It
board.
it makes it a lot easier. I think that we tend to hold. I do tend to hold a lot more stress when I can't feel like I can be myself. I have to be something different or act a special way.
Yeah, yeah. And as someone who's a recovery coach, I find that that ability to be your authentic self, your person in recovery, is so critical
Yeah.
for your own self-care, for your relationships. You're living your recovery at work and living your recovery in your community. So you have to live your recovery
Right.
in all aspects of your self, which is the only thing that really guarantees that you'll stay in recovery, right?
Yeah.
We're multifaceted beings doing a lot of different things. And when you declare that you're in recovery, you must follow that in all parts of you. People shouldn't get a different person at work than they get at home.
Right.
We should be able to be, we should be our authentic self, and we should be able to feel that we can be our authentic self.
Yeah. So I think a thing that really interested you, really got us interested in wanting to talk to you, is that you pretty much call this out, and we'll talk about the food and the weight side. You pretty much call this out as an addiction, and it is. I mean, I have to always admit and say this out loud, that, I am the fatty of the two. And that's, we talk about things on this show related to me and my struggles, but it, sometimes it is an addiction until I think we realize that. Then all the different things that we try, they're probably not going to work. We have to figure out how to, what's driving that addiction, how to heal it. And so, can we talk a little bit about that? And, either how you handle that with other people, or maybe if you want to talk a little bit about your journey there as well.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So first of all, I really want to say, in my book writing, which I work with ascended beings to write the book. There's a term called channeling the book. So I sit quietly and I receive guidance on what to write. And the third book that I wrote, Feast and Famine: Healing Addiction with Grace. This book I was getting information from Sophia, who is an ascended being. Most people know her as the Holy Spirit. And the first thing she said to me as I was preparing to write this book, which was very scary because she wanted me to write this book, but she also wanted me to tell my story of addiction and recovery. But the problem was I was still in addiction. So I'm like, well, this is going to be fun. I guess I'm just going to have to fake it until I make it in this book, right? And so the first thing that she said to me in Feast and Famine: Healing Addiction with Grace is that there's only one addiction on this planet, and that is to suffering. And then we choose our vice or our substance to perpetuate the suffering until we're ready to look at the suffering and we're ready to heal our traumas, and then get back into loving ourselves.
Yeah.
So for food, I would say that what the real question is when someone has a food addiction is, what are you really hungry for? Right? Not it's so you can't. Yes, we have secondary addictions, right? Mine happened to be chocolate. You know, I realized that this year, and this year
Me
I
too.
became allergic to it. I can't even eat it anymore, and it's made such a big difference in my life, I think. Or maybe I'm allergic to it for a while until my body says, "All right, we can trust her again
Yeah.
to not go crazy eating it." Like maybe there'll come a time where I can get back to eating it, but maybe I needed to, even though I was in recovery. So I was obsessive compulsive food disorder plus bulimia. And so I was definitely in recovery from the bulimia because I didn't have any choice because I almost died. I think last time I did it, I was bleeding and I had pain all over my body. And I realized that if I continued to do this, I would probably pop a gasket somewhere
Right.
in my head or in my heart or something. And so I stopped, but I was still obsessively eating, and then I realized I need to figure out why I'm still obsessively eating. And so I worked on that. I worked on the traumas around that. And then my body decided to help me by making me allergic to chocolate. And after that, after I was able to remove that, I was actually able to take off 25 pounds that I really didn't need. It wasn't serving any purpose. I'm sure it was just causing inflammation in my system. So, did I answer your question, Roy?
Yes, yes, she did, and I look at that and think, so what are the steps to trying to identify that? Because, me and Terry, we've had bouts of doing really good, and I say us, I'll say me, me really.
Well, me
I
too.
have bouts of doing really good, and earlier, what's been a couple months ago, we were cooking, we were doing everything right, and unfortunately, Terry's mother got very ill where she had to spend a few weeks, pretty much dealing with her and being at her house every day. And so, me left to my own devices, I fall back into the ease of eating whatever I can get my hands on, or going up to the burger place, or back into bad habits. And now I find, that I've put some of that weight back on. So again, that's why I kind of understand this addiction, because it's not it's kind of weird. Actually, I was been thinking about it a little, and it's like almost a feeling of comfort. There was a time where I felt like I had to eat right before bedtime to feel full and comforted. And logically, I try to talk myself through that. Just because my stomach might just growl or just make a rumble for a minute, I'm not starving to death. I'm not going to
Right.
fall out in the next 5 minutes or something. It's like, oh my God, I got to get something quick, But so anyway, just that you mentioned, what are we missing? It's funny. It's just that comforted, full feeling but it's misery,
It
actually.
it is. It is. And it's interesting when I was a kid, my mother, and I really don't think this was to get us to stop eating. I think it was so that we didn't make a mess in the kitchen. My mom used to say after dinner was cleaned up that the kitchen is closed.
Yeah.
Now, for me, as someone who was having to live this journey that my soul wanted to be on, that was very a form of deprivation in a way.
Right.
That I was like, oh, when am I going to eat again? When am I going to eat again? But at the same time, I've tried, that's something that I live by now. The
Yeah.
kitchen is closed.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't go back into the kitchen after dinner. And I know I'm not going to starve before breakfast, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
that's just not possible.
Right.
But one of the things that happened to me this Thanksgiving is I have been making all the same recipes, mostly with my daughter, for years and years. And those recipes hold like a memory, maybe perhaps,
Yeah.
of
Okay.
overeating,
Yeah.
right? Of stuffing myself and then purging, right? Like stuffing and purging, stuffing and purging. Well, by the end of, I kind of ate like not like someone who had just lost 25 pounds and shrunk her stomach. I ate like the person from 2, 3 years ago who was binging and purging.
Yeah.
By the end of the night, by the end of the dinner, I was so sick. Like I thought, like I felt like I had, I don't know, food poisoning, but not real food poisoning,
Right.
but sort of like like I was drunk on food, and then I just felt like and I've been dealing, I think, with a food hangover. Like I
Yes.
didn't have alcohol. It was all food that made me
I.
dizzy and sweating, and I had to go outside so that I could, I could breathe. Like I'm like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Why did I do that? And I think it was associated with the idea that it's a holiday, so you can eat whatever you want.
Right.
And I think for us who are being, trying to honor our bodies, that's like not necessary if it's coming from an emotional place. And I do believe that I think I was living off the memories. Terry, what do you think about that? Because you're shaking your head there.
I
I can see you.
no, I totally agree, and I definitely believe in that food hangover after you just eat everything in sight or everything that you want to, especially with Thanksgiving, because we try to give ourselves a pass and oh, it's Thanksgiving, it's the holidays, we can do what we want to, and then you eat, and then you just feel like you're gonna blow, or you have pains everywhere. You just,
Yeah,
I,
it's painful. It's
yes,
painful.
I know.
It's like a hangover,
Yeah.
I think. Or
yes,
I,
most
I
definitely.
notice it more with, excuse me, with carbs, and
Oh.
like when we would go out, maybe used to, and go eat Mexican food and sit there and eat a couple baskets of chips or tortillas or whatever. Boy, it is like the next day I would be, I would have the headache. My head would be full and congested, and it may take me 2 or 3 hours after I woke up to get out from under that. So, I mean, it is a real definite thing for sure.
And on the opposite of that, think about how amazing you feel when you eat something healthy,
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
right? When you've had a meal that you would consider healthy, and then the food is energizing your body and giving it the fuel that it needs to be productive,
Right.
right? I mean, you could see the difference. And you were talking about carbs, Roy, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, at our Thanksgiving meal we had turkey, right? But we had stuffing, we had mashed potatoes, we had sweet potato pie, we had crescent rolls,
Oh, wow.
Oh my
um,
goodness, I'm
right?
getting
Like
hungry.
like yeah, but it was like all of those things, right? Like I'm like, yeah, so I think I had a carb fest,
Right.
and my body just said, that's just not happening here. And, I was really upset with myself. And I spoke to my mentor, and you know what she sent me? She sent me just like a red button that said reset.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an
So that's what
important.
I've done.
That's important. We should all have the reset button
Oh
because,
yes.
my mindset is always like, oh well, I was like so messed up yesterday that it's not going to hurt to have
Hmm.
some M and M's or chips or whatever today. Or there's it's always like, well, we'll start tomorrow. Let's get this out of our system and start tomorrow. But when you start working your way through all the food groups, the chocolates, the chips, the bad this and bad that, that's almost an indefinite start time. You can't put it off until you eat all the good stuff.
Yeah, I've already done it today. I mean,
Yeah.
I might as well just keep on going because I'm going to have to eat celery sticks for the rest, the rest of the time. It just seems
Well,
like the healthy stuff is what you're, what you need, but, you
right.
know,
And it is like, I remember my husband and I would go away for a weekend and I would be so bad. And he'd be like, let's go on a diet. It would be Sunday, right? For the weekend. And he'd be like,
Right.
let's go on a diet now, like right this minute. And I'd be like, no,
yeah, I
it's
Right.
need
Sunday
time.
dinner.
Yeah.
Like, what? Are you kidding me? I got one more meal. It's the
Right.
weekend. Like, don't take that away from me.
Yeah.
And he was so good. He'd be like, no, right now, we're starting right now.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, no. But the thing that's interesting is I also think, you come off a holiday like Thanksgiving, sometimes you need to take it, just give yourself 2 or 3 days to get back to what is healthy eating for you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like today, I had a half a cookie, well, big half, it was a big cookie. And I had half of it. But I'm like,
Giant.
yeah. But I'm like, all right, I had the cookie. I just need to account for that.
Right.
And so going into dinner, I know, I'm a big proponent of MyFitnessPal, which is an app where you count your calories, but I'm also watching my carbs, my fats, and my
Right.
protein. And so I know that I am really at the top of my carbs already.
Yeah.
So what can I have for supper that is not going to push me way over on the carbs? And
Yeah.
so that way, because I did want the cookie and I wanted some croutons in my soup, right?
Yeah.
So croutons are really fattening if you really
Yeah.
look at them. But I know what I ate, right? And so I'm not depriving myself of anything today because I don't really believe in deprivation. Although I do believe that if I didn't have carbs, I would feel better.
Yeah.
Just like you said, Roy, like I think carbs make us feel like crap.
Yeah, they
Yes.
do. And just like getting up, I notice it through my life, like getting up the next day. Friday morning I was dragging, slow getting up, moving around. But, when I'm on my game and eating like I should day in and day out, I'll pop up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, wake up, be ready to go, kind of like my mind is already in motion where I feel like when I have that carb hangover, it's like my mind is about, 2 hours behind and still trying to get caught up to
Just
get me on the right plane.
the energy
Mm-hmm.
energy
Yeah.
level is a lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah,
that's,
it is. Makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I actually find I have to be really careful if I have like oatmeal for breakfast. I mean, nothing wrong with oatmeal, right? Awesome for you, but that is psychologically gives me like, oh, carbs. We've started with the carbs.
Yeah.
Where are we going with the carbs,
Yeah.
right? So it actually just makes my day harder because I have to remember that I had carbs in the morning and sometimes I just want hot oatmeal and it's so good for you,
Yeah.
right? But it does can have that psychological
Yeah.
effect where it just starts the obsessive compulsive thought process in my mind.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm better off with like a protein shake or something
Yeah.
with spinach in it and almond milk. I'm better like that.
Yeah.
I'm better with a very healthy shake in the morning, and I just feel like I've given my body something good
Yeah.
to start with.
And you mentioned something I just want to reiterate that we feel very strongly about is number one, knowing what you're eating. Good, bad, indifferent. Know what's in it so you can write it down and then use an app. There's MyFitnessPal, Chronometer, a lot of good ones out there. Use it to mark it down because at the end of the day, either you can adjust to try to be closer to where you want to be, or if you're totally off the reservation, you'll understand why the next day or two you've gained weight. You can look back and say, well, these are all the things that I ate during this time period. So I always say it's good to use it whether you're eating bad or whether you're eating good, because if you're not eating right, you'll be able to see
The
how
patterns.
bad that really is. Because a lot of times, like us, when until we sat down and really thought things through, then I'd be like, oh my gosh, croutons. So, I had this little thing. I'd sit down and make a crouton salad with just, it was a bowl of croutons with some
Dressing.
Parmesan cheese and a little dressing on them. And so then you think, okay, well, 10 croutons have 200, or, I don't know how much. They have a lot of carbs. So multiply that times all those croutons I ate and all the bad things I've done during the day. Then all of a sudden you start getting this realization of, I see now why I'm having trouble losing weight, because it's all these things that you really don't think about, but they add up over a day's time.
Yeah. And, there's the old fashioned that, you're going to eat a lot of calories. You have to exercise. Like, I really believe that true weight loss comes when you're eating healthy within a certain number of calories, certain, level of carbs, proteins, and fat, and exercising,
Right.
and drinking your water, and sleeping well.
Sleeping. Yeah.
And did you hear that?
Yeah.
Drinking your water.
That's one thing I've really fallen off. But yeah, I used to have a note above my desk that had those in, water, sleep, because that's the thing is once one of these components gets out of whack, it starts throwing the others out. Like when I'm eating wrong, I won't sleep as much or as good. If I stop sleeping as much, if we get busy and all of a sudden having a lot of long days, then all of a sudden I need to eat to compensate for that. So I'm one of these that I have to be very balanced in all those categories to make it work. And,
Yeah.
I think that I believe in the rule that diet is 75 to 80% of the weight loss, but we can't discount the exercise, because we need to move our bodies. And I said a lot, and I get very, very stiff. I feel like my circulation is not as good. It's your heart. There's so many other things that just take weight loss off the table. There's so many other reasons that we need to get out and move during the day.
Yeah. And I was thinking of listening to what you were saying, Roy, and I'm thinking, it's like our body intuitively knows that we are giving it what it needs, right? We're hydrating it. We're giving it healthy food. We're giving it sleep, right? What was the other one? Water,
sleep,
food,
diet, and exercise. Yes.
and exercise, right? And it's like, oh, we can relax here. We don't have to store food store calories, because we know that the calories are going to come naturally.
Right.
Like every day, there's going to be a good source of energy for this body, hydration. We don't have to store water in the body. We know that this person is moving. They're going to be eliminating well. I mean, that all those add to eliminating well, as right.
Yeah, exactly.
Both number one and number two.
Yeah.
Right. It all adds. It all adds to that, right? And so when your body sees that you are treating your body like a temple, right, that it is, so home of your soul, then it says, oh, well, then let's take this weight off.
Right.
My husband just lost 45 pounds, right?
Wow.
Like that's what he's doing. He's doing all of it at once, right? We're doing all of it at once. And then your body just says, oh, we can shed this extra water weight. We can shed this extra pounds.
Yep.
Right? Because we don't need that for reserve storage, because Robin and her husband are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Like we can trust them now.
Yeah.
And then you see the pounds start coming off.
I think we have to think too, our bodies were, even though they may have evolved somewhat, that they were designed for a very different time in life where, probably even further back, the caveman era, but let's just think about the agrarian society where, the farmer got up at daylight, worked all day, out in the fields, hot, came home at, dark, ate, went to bed. And, like myself, I've got uh, an an iWatch, whatever the thing's called, that
Apple
tracks
Watch.
Apple Watch tracks your steps. And so working from home, if I don't make myself get out and do something, I mean, I can be less than 500 steps a day. I walk
Mm-hmm.
25 feet from I walk 10 feet from the bed to the bathroom, 25 from bathroom to my desk, and then that's it. I mean, and it sounds kind of weird, but that's the actual truth of a lot of, and some people get more
Oh,
walking
yes.
from the car to the office, and you do get that, but our jobs now are more setting and not as much in activity. So I think we have to think about that when we're eating. Like, even as like me, I can't eat like I did when I was a teenager and playing sports and running around all day and all night. That's not who my body is anymore. So, or it's not who my life is, and my body, I have to adjust what I put in it to account for that.
Yeah. Yes. And I know like on the My Fitness Pal app, it says I should be walking 10,000 steps.
Right.
That's like what I would do on vacation,
Right.
right? Like
Yes.
when I can walk the beach, and I don't know, I just don't find that in my day, but I certainly still try to get like 4 to 5,000
Yeah.
steps in,
Yeah, I
by
think.
taking a nice a 45-minute walk or
Yeah.
something like that.
And I used to beat myself up for that. I think that's a good point, that, while 10, 12,000 may be optimal, it's not feasible. And if we can get 4 to 6,000 in, I think we have to be happy that we got that much in.
Oh,
Because,
yeah.
when you get to a certain point of
Hmm.
not doing things right, then all of a sudden you start beating yourself up for, I had an extra 100 calories, or I didn't walk that extra 1,000 steps. But think about, if you hadn't been paying any attention at all, you might have had 5,000 extra calories, or you might have had 4,000 less steps. So that just gets back to, let's celebrate the positives that we do, of what we
Hmm.
do achieve,
Yeah.
and maybe my calories or my carbs were a little bit over today, but if I hadn't been paying attention, they'd have been a lot over. So let's think how good that is. So, and the other thing I wanted to move to, because I know Terry is chomping at the
Oh,
bits to
yes.
talk about writing. So,
Yes.
Yes.
because over the last, while we were on vacation, I read a book by Matthew McConaughey. He just put a
Mm.
book out, and what he did is he was a prolific journaler from a young age, and he took all of his notes and went and put this book together, and it was very good. And I've talked to some other guests on my business podcast that journaling big part of their day, and I'm not good about that, but let's just talk about journaling, writing, how that can be of help to us, because I think it's very important.
Hmm. Yeah, so I'm an author. I'm an author of 3 books that are out now, one that's getting ready to be published, and then I have 2 more that are nipping at my heels.
Okay.
One is actually a book on writing,
Okay.
Terry, and then the other one is the next in my series of messages from the spiritual masters. Um, and I remember when I first was feeling and knowing this guidance that I needed to write, because what I know for sure is writing it down, journaling, or writing, maybe writing a manuscript, heals you, right? Because it takes everything that's inside of you, all of these experiences, and it puts them out on a piece of paper. It's almost like the same premise when you're so overwhelmed and you create a to-do list. Like,
Right.
even though every single thing that you have to do is still on that list, you feel better,
Yes.
right? That
Uh,
is on the list, right? That's
yes.
what happens when you're writing from your inner self about the journey that you've been on. So I always say that writing your manuscript heals you, publishing it heals others. And so when I work with my writing clients, I always say to them, first round is for you. Tell your story, talk about your parents, talk about someone who may still be alive, and you got to out them. Just get it out there, and then we'll come back and say, do we want to keep this, right? Do we
Right.
want to keep this? So when I first began getting the message that I needed to write, my I would wake up at like 111, 222, 333,
Oh,
four four
wow.
four, the angel numbers in the middle of the night, and I would have to get up and write. And so I would actually write a letter to God. And that's how I began writing. I would be like, "Dear God." And then I would start writing to God and just telling God everything that was going on in my life and asking for guidance. And then finally, I was so tired after doing this for so long. I said to my guidance, "Do you, why do you have to wake me up in the middle of the night?" And the answer was, "Because you're not writing during the day." So
Yeah.
Ah.
so I started writing during the day. I started thinking about writing and, um, what I would be writing, and then I was able to sleep through the night. So, if
Interesting.
this is for your listeners, if you're getting a pull to write, it's very exciting for your spiritual team because they know that they can reach you through your writing and help you to have the best life that you can here and to actually fulfill your soul's destiny. So, Terry had seen that I have a course coming up called Writing with Spirit. And it's a course that I was guided to teach about how to channel content like I do. Like, what does that mean to download information and put it out on a page? I'm it's a very profound experience. It's fun, Terry, because I'm actually trying to figure out what it is that I actually do. Like I said, okay to teaching the course before I started documenting what is it about me that I can do this, and what is it about me that I have the courage to do it, because I also believe anyone can do this. I'm not special in any way. It is I as I said earlier believe that I am one with the universe, and that if whomever I need to connect to, I will be able to get this messaging that is so required to be out in the world. I mean, the whole idea on feast and famine, that what we're really addicted to is suffering. I had never heard that before. And
When
I've
I
been on
read that,
yeah,
excuse me, when I read
yeah,
that on your website, I'm just like, that is so true. It's all
yeah,
about the suffering. And
yes,
and to put that, to journal and put that down on paper, to me, if you put it down on ink, I guess even in pencil, it's there forever. And then I've got to see it. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to deal with what is all this stuff?
yeah,
I'm judging myself because, I was brought up in the 60s and 70s and 80s. That's how I was raised. Just
yeah.
to
And trauma is so interesting too, guys, because trauma, I mean, if you have had serious trauma, like, yes, I am not diminishing that. What I'm trying to say is we have trauma that we don't even know was traumatic
yes.
to us. Like, for example, when I was like 6 years old, I was with all my cousins, and my dad had just washed his car, and somebody put their little handprints on there, and he lined us all up, and we all put our little hands
Oh
on
my
there,
gosh.
and
Yeah.
my hand was the closest to the size of the thing, and he said, "Then you were the one that did this, Robin." And I was like, "I did not." And then my mom said I screamed from like noon until I fell asleep at night that I did not do that. I did not do that. And you don't believe me. And so it set up this like trauma pattern about you know can I trust people who are the closest to me to believe me,
Hmm.
right?
Interesting.
It
Yeah.
and we just don't know where those trauma patterns start, and I'm saying that it could be something, a pattern like that, that just begins where we don't know it. But if we don't go in and look for them, if we don't excavate them, these memories, and I would say to you, we all know what our memories are, because the I always say they're the memories that you'll be washing dishes or something, and then all of a sudden you'll think of like something that happened when you were 8 years old or 10. And you're like, why am I thinking of that? Trauma pattern. Like it's like coming up to be looked at.
Interesting.
And so if you have like someone you can trust to look at these, a professional person, I do believe that if you can look at these trauma patterns, then you can actually heal your life and get back to self-love so that you don't use addictive. So look at the patterns, heal your life, move from suffering to self-love, and then you can get out of any kind of addictive behavior in. But if you don't look at why you were suffering or what you're searching for, what you really need, then I think it would be harder to stay in recovery if you don't do the work.
That's interesting you say that because that happens quite a bit. Be like thinking about, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast yesterday morning, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about this baseball game or a football game that was, when I was 7, 8, 10 years old or something like that. And, it's just strange how those things kind of like, and then because I think more lately as I've tried to get healthy, I think, why is this popping up into my mind all of a sudden right now? So.
Well, my mentor says that that we're made up of parts, right? And so we're all these little parts that make us be one being, and we have all these different parts that are different ages, right? And so when that part's like waving at you, hello, maybe there's something that could help you heal if you look at me, then and maybe give me a new assignment. Like I looked at a part a couple of weeks ago, and it was really angry. It was a part of me that was very angry from my childhood. And so I said to this part, as I was going inside, I go, can I give you a new job? Like, instead of making me feel angry at things, how about if you become my passion? How about if you fuel my projects? Right? And instead of having me look for reasons why people might mess me up, right? Like being not trusting people or getting mad at people if they don't live up to my expectations. How about being my passion for the project so that I can clearly state what my boundaries are and clearly state what my requirements are of other people, and then make it up to them to say, I can do that, Robin, or I can't. And maybe we don't do this. But so I'm having that anger fuel my projects with passion, and then we'll see what happens. But we have to know the source of that. What was going on at that memory.
I would like to, I'm going back for a second. I would like to know if any of your siblings ever fessed up to putting that handprint on the car, or if you actually did it and you were just denying.
I don't know. I mean, I think no one was going to fess up to that because my dad was so mad. Yeah. I guess I could ask them. It would be a good question.
There you go.
It would be a good question because I feel like I can actually, it's so real still that I can see myself in line, and I was the littlest one at the time, right? So I was last in line and nobody's fit. It's like the OJ glove. Right?
Yeah, right.
Right.
Well, it's
must
fun.
have quit.
It's funny how that works because I remember when I wasn't there, but my my ex-wife and my grandmother had gone shopping with the kids, and so my son was probably 3, 4, 5 at the time, and this is how long ago it's been. There was actually department stores you could go in and buy clothes and other merchandise. People of this day is like, was that on Amazon or where was it? No, it was actually a department store. You walked in, and so he had gotten in the middle of one of these round clothes rings, and he was hiding and kind of having fun. Well, then when they started looking for him, and he kind of panicked just a little bit because he could tell their voices were getting a little bit more stern and a little bit more scared. And so then he's like, well, I'm not saying anything. So then he just ended up staying there, and it just totally made things worse as you go by. So yeah, definitely you read that parent's anger and like, yeah, I'm not fessing up to it now. Even if I might have a while ago, not doing it now.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that could be something that moves into his um you know when he's afraid
Right.
that the people that love him the most are going to get angry with him if he shares what he's most upset about in life.
Yeah.
So maybe he might hold it in, right? Or um, drink instead,
Yeah.
right? Something like these just set up patterns. There's the people who love us. We have to know that our parents were doing the very best that they knew how to do with
Right.
what they knew,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Right? Like, what they were taught from their parents, it's like generational. But I will say this, in the energy healing work, and any of this trauma pattern work, when you actually go in and heal your own traumas, there's almost like an energetic generational thing where it heals people generations back on the soul level, and it heals people generations forward on the soul level. So
Interesting.
everything that you do impacts your lineage. When you are courageous to do your own work, I call living an examined life is the term that I use. When you live an examined life and you look at these trauma patterns, you're healing your whole family.
Interesting.
And they may
Ah.
not know that, but it's done on an energetic level,
Yeah.
on a soul level.
All right, Robin. One more
Mm,
question for you before we wrap
yeah,
up is,
yeah.
so what is a tool that you use, either the professional life, writing, or personal life, either a tool, a habit, ritual that you do every day you just couldn't do without?
That I couldn't do without. Um, I I pray every morning when I get up, and I pray the gratitude for being here. I pray with gratitude for being able to serve. I pray with gratitude to be able to share wisdom, and I pray with gratitude for my recovery, so that I can stay healthy. And I pray obviously for my loved ones for
Right.
their health and wellness. And I believe that starting my day, it's the first thing I do. I don't even get out of bed, but I just go into this prayer because I feel that it sets my energy to be in alignment with my divine source, which which is kind of like a requirement for my job.
Right.
Right.
But I also think that it just sets me off in the right direction. And I'm a big proponent of the law of attraction, the teachings of Abraham Hicks. And I believe that it's aligning me with all that I most desire in my life. And that hopefully, by staying in that mindset of positivity, or
Yeah.
starting my day off there being positive and grateful, that can only attract more things to me that I most desire on a daily basis.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I do believe in that so much that
Mm.
if we practice being gracious, thankful, it just attracts more positive. If we always walk around upset and mad, then it's just gonna seem like it attracts more problems to our life. So that's awesome.
Always does.
All right. Well, if you don't mind, take a few minutes and just tell us, where people can go
Hmm.
to,
Yes.
find out more information about you, how you can help them, and also take a few minutes to tell us about the books that you have out there and what you have, if you're close enough to talk about the one that's coming up next.
I am. Yes. Thank
Okay.
you. So my website is clarity.com, CLARE-ITY.com. It's a play on my
I,
last
I
name.
love that, by the way.
I do too.
Thank you. And then my Instagram is Clarity by Robin, and my Facebook is Clarity with Robin. And yeah, so I have so my first book is called Messiah Within. It's a guide to embracing your inner divinity, and it's a channeled book with Yeshua, who most people call Jesus. And then my second book is called The Divine Keys. It is a book on how to live a divinely guided life. Yeshua came back and told me I wasn't living the first book, so I had to figure out what I was doing wrong, I guess. And so I figured that out, and then this is it's a simple book, it's a contemplative book. Of course, the third book, which we talked about, Feast and Famine, Healing Addiction with Grace, is a book to help people to move out of the addiction of suffering to a healed life and living in recovery and allowing grace into their lives. My fourth book is a book that I wrote with King Solomon, and that's just about ready. It's called King Solomon Speaks, a meditation journey from spiritual to divine, and it's 7 meditations that will help people to really live their divine journey versus just studying it or, saying they're never healed. It's about being healed, being of service, and allowing others to make the journey with you. And then my fifth book I'll start writing is, well, I don't know, my fifth and sixth, maybe I have to write them at the same time since they came in at the same time. But one is about this writing with spirit. Like, what does that look like? And using writing as a recovery tool, because that's what I did. I used writing to recover. And then the other one is another book with a female from the Bible. Her name is Martha, and it's about becoming a spiritual teacher.
Okay. Yeah, and it's,
Wow.
that's the writing, even when I journal, it's kind of like the to-do list. I just feel unburdened just to get stuff out. And it doesn't have to be negative feelings or anything. It can be a
No,
positive, but it's just like
that's right.
I just feel so much
Like
more
you can
relaxed after I get
breathe
that out.
deeply.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
It does. It really it removes it from inside of you. Even if it's just for the time that you put it out there, it's excavating it,
right,
right? And
right.
it's making room for more light and more peace and more joy in your life,
Yeah,
because those traumas, those concerns, those worries, like you said, Roy, one of my favorite Abraham Hicks quotes is, "Worrying is like praying for what you don't want."
yeah, yeah,
Right? Because every time you worry about something, every time you talk about something in the form of lack, you're attracting more lack to
yeah,
you, more things to worry about.
yeah.
So I would always recommend to people, ask for what you want, not what you don't want.
Right.
So, for example, if you're having a financial problem, don't ask for, don't say, I don't have enough money to pay my bills. Ask for enough abundance to pay your bills, and then maybe to pay some forward,
Right.
to be able to be generous. So when we worry about what we don't have, we
Yeah,
get more of that.
yeah,
When we don't worry and we ask for what we do want, that comes to us, as long as we hold that
yeah.
vibration.
Yeah, and you mentioned too about paying forward. I think it's important that we put stuff
Mhm.
out there without any expectation of reciprocation. I think that's the
Yes.
main thing that we have to, what you put out in the universe, you get back tenfold. And so I think that we have to be able to pay it forward without saying, okay, I'm going to give them this, but I'm getting this in return. No, we have to have that pure
Yeah.
heart and
The
say, this is, this is to help somebody, and let it go at that.
wholeheartedly, for sure.
Yeah.
That just makes you feel so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so even like doing, you guys, when you're doing this podcast, it's giving, right? It's paying it forward, right? You're sharing your wisdom, you're allowing others to come on and share their wisdom, and it's a
Yeah.
blessing.
Yeah. Well, Robin, thanks so much for taking time
You're
out of your
welcome.
day, and we look forward to having you back. We could have gone on for probably a couple
Oh,
more hours,
yes.
so we'll
Yes.
definitely have to schedule you again and
Thank
get a
you.
little bit deeper. So, uh, we want to thank everybody for listening. Again, this is Feeding Fatty. You can find us at feedingfatty.com. We are also on Facebook. We have a Facebook group, Twitter, Instagram. We are YouTube. And you can find us on all the major podcast platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Pandora, Amazon. So go look us up. And if we're not on your favorite one, reach out to us and we'll try to get there. So again,
Great.
thanks everybody. And until next time, have a great day.
Thank
Robin,
you.
thank you so much. We
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you.
Terry, thank you. I appreciate being here.